A very, very beautiful Monday morning to you, and a warm welcome to the press, reaching you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Olamide Al-Hassan, and today is the 6th day of October 2025. And I hope you had a great weekend. Well, and I want to also say Happy Teachers Day to all the teachers who nurtured us and all the teachers still nurturing all the children. You are the reason why we are here today. And I want to especially thank our parents because they are our first teachers as well. And as well, thank most of the teachers and lecturers who have gone beyond just being teachers, but also nurturers to all of our words. Thank you so much for your active service. That's what I want to say, because it's more like teachers never stop teaching. Thank you so much. Happy Teachers Day. Well, you already know how we do it on the press. We give you updates on the weather forecast, and afterwards we take you through what made it to the front page of our national dailies, and then coming with a guest for analysis of most of the top stories that hits the front page of our national dailies. So right about now, let's give you updates on the weather forecast so you know how best to get your day started. So right about now, I'll have to start from the core north. So we're going to Kano State first. In Kano State this morning, it says it's 23 degrees Celsius on the average. It's currently cloudy. The highest is at 31 degrees Celsius and the lowest is at 22 degrees Celsius. And partly cloudy conditions are expected around 1 p.m. as wind gusts are up to 16 kilometers per hour in Kano State. And from Kano State now we head on to Kaduna. Kaduna State says on the average it's about 22 degrees Celsius. It's cloudy. The highest is at 29 degrees Celsius and the lowest is at 21 degrees Celsius. And rainy conditions are expected around 5 p.m. as wind gusts are up to 8 kilometers per hour in Kaduna for this morning. And from Kaduna State, now let's trek to Port Harcourt, or should we just take a flight down to Port Harcourt? Port Harcourt says 23 degrees Celsius on the average and it's cloudy. The highest is at 29 degrees Celsius and the lowest is at 22 degrees Celsius. And rainy conditions are expected around 1 p.m. as wind gusts are up to 13 kilometers per hour. And from Port Harcourt now we head on to Imo State. Imo State says on the average it's about 23 degrees Celsius. It's cloudy. The highest is at 30 degrees Celsius and the lowest is at 22 degrees Celsius. And rainy conditions are expected around 3 p.m. as wind gusts are up to 11 kilometers per hour in Imo State. And now from Imo State we head on to Lagos State Commercial Nerve Center of Nigeria, fondly called Eko Onibaje. And in Lagos State, it's about 24 degrees Celsius on the average, currently drizzling. The highest is at 28 degrees Celsius and the lowest is at 24 degrees Celsius. And cloudy conditions are expected around 5 p.m. as wind gusts are up to 10 kilometers per hour in Lagos State. And from Lagos State now to the Federal Capital Territory, where you're currently watching us from right about now. In Abuja, it's about 22 degrees Celsius on the average. It's cloudy. The highest is at 28 degrees Celsius and the lowest is at 21 degrees Celsius. And cloudy conditions will continue all day as wind gusts are up to 9 kilometers per hour. It was a rainy day in Abuja last night, so it's probably not going to rain today, or it might rain, but the weather hasn't said anything relating to rain, but it's going to be a cloudy day. And of course, when it's cloudy, you can expect just about anything. Well, that's it for the weather forecast. It's time now to see what made it to the front page of our national dailies. Even though it's not such a sunny day, I'm going to start with the Daily Sun. Daily Sun says, House of Reps minority leadership crisis deepens. You didn't hear that. I'll repeat that. That's on the front page of the Daily Sun. It says, House of Reps minority leadership crisis deepens. Opposition lawmakers summer emergency meeting. That's the writer to that story. And now, still beside the nameplate, we have Lagos, Ohaneze, others protest demolition of Igbo property. And that's on page 29 for your read this morning. Consumers groan as cooking gas price hits 1,300 naira per kilogram. IOC's Dangote refinery blamed amid biting scarcity. That's a whole lot. Well, the story begins on the front page, and you find more details of that on page 2 of the paper for this morning. Now, ACF tackles organized labor over plan to sabotage Dangote refinery. That's another conversation coming up. Well, you find out on page 26. Road infrastructure Tinubu PDP chieftain hailed Governor Okpebolo of Edo State. And you find that on page 27 for your read this morning. Now, alleged certificate forgery. Minister Nanji asked court to stop UNN others from tampering with academic records. And that's on page 6. Tasmania, FG elated over 8 billion naira digestive liver transplant private hospital built by Nigerian. Says it symbolizes strong bonds between Nigeria and Australia. And that's on page 26 for your read this morning. And the picture story we find here is the first one on my right, says connecting with Nigeria's next generation. The governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Mr. Olayemi Cardoso, is flanked by select students of the University of Lagos after a meet and greet session ahead of the inaugural edition of the CBN Governor's Lecture, organized as part of the bank's Knowledge Acceleration and Thought Leadership Initiative at Lagos Business School on Friday the 3rd of October 2025. And the one on my left says Acting High Commissioner of Nigeria to Australia, Ambassador Jane Bassey Adams, found at Tasmania Digestive Centre, Tasmania, Australia, Dr. Albert Nwaba, Minister of Business, Industry and Resource, Felix Ellis, Senator of Tasmania, Tammy Tyrrell, and Mayor of Devonport, Alison Jammern, during the commissioning of Tasmania Digestive Centre, Australia at the weekend. Well, that's it on the front page of the Daily Sun. It's time now to see what other papers have in store for us. And our next stop point is the Nigerian Tribune. Nigerian Tribune says 2027, disquiet in ADC over obese moves. Disquiet in ADC over obese moves. Party must consider zoning to South, says Tanko Yanusa. He's running away from contest, NWC members say. Next election will be a three-horse race, says Chekwas Okori. And that's on page 22 for your read this morning. World Teachers Day. NUT laments manpower crisis with shortage of 194,876 teachers. Demands enhanced salary structure, warns against commercialization of education, urges federal government to restore TRCN on budget list. FG promises better deal for teachers. And that's on page 7 for your read this morning. Tinubu PDP chieftain hail Okpebolo's road infrastructure revolution, and that's on page 3. Digital payments raise heats up. Fintechs drive 71.5 trillion naira transactions as banks monetize digital growth, and that's on page 6 for your read this morning. Kwara scraps PTA levy, approves grants for public primary schools, and that's on page 4 for your read this morning. Wike Fubra warring political actors unite in Port Harcourt. That's about the best news ever, and that's on page 3. Dangote Refinery commends Tinubu Security Chief's Minister for averting Pengassan disruption, and that's on page 27. Health. Individuals with rectal bleeding are 8.5 times more likely to have colorectal cancer, according to study, and that's on page 3. And the picture story you find is Governor of Lagos State, Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, flanked by the Managing Director, CEO of First Bank, Mr. Olusegun Alebiosu, President and Commercial and Chairman of Board of Directors of Exim Bank, Professor Benedict Obiora, and others during the grand finale of the E1 Lagos GP Championship in Victoria Island on Sunday. Well, that's it on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune as we head on to see what other papers have in store for us. Our next stop point is on The Nation. The Nation newspaper says House of Reps minority caucus boils over leadership. House of Reps minority caucus boils over leadership. Professor Pro-Anti Kingsley Chinda group set for showdown. pro-anti-Kingsley Chinda group set for showdown. Crucial meeting holds today. That's on the front page of the paper for your read this morning. And now Tinubu PDP chief hail Okwebolo's Edo Road Revolution. That's on page 6. First Lady, teachers are real heroes. I can agree more. Teachers are the real heroes. Alausa eulogizes tutors, and that's on page 5. Dangote, Ethiopia Prime Minister break ground on $25 billion fertilizer plants, and that's on page 16. Emisi wins $150 million grand prize of BB9 season 10. Emisi wins 150 million naira grand prize of BB9 series 10, and that's on page 4 for your read this morning. And our troops kill terror kingpin Kachala Maidawa and 34 orders, and that's on page 7. House of Reps minority caucus balls over leadership. I read that to you earlier. And Nigeria's oil rigs increased by 726.5%. 400 oil fields dormant, and that's on the front page for your read this morning. Now, federal government excited by $8 billion liver transplant private hospital built by a Nigerian, and that's on page 3 for your read this morning. The picture story on the front page of the Nation is same as the picture story on the Nigerian Tribune, so I'll let this slide as we pick all the papers that we have. And now to the Nigerian News Direct. It says Osun local government crisis, conflicting orders, rising tension as workers brace for Monday resumption. Algon APC assure of safety, cautions Governor Adeleke against hindering end of strike. Call for resumption of deliberate means of destabilizing peace, says Nudge, and that's on page 5. Now CNG takes the wheel as Lagos drivers ditch petrol. CNG takes the wheel as Lagos driver ditch petrol, and that's on the front page. And NDLEA busts UK-bound cocaine ring, arrests kingpin, 5 accomplices, and that's on the front page. 2027 rival ambitions, ego clashes threaten coalition prospects across PDP, LP, and ADC. That's available for your read. Seplat targets 1 barrel per day gas production by 2030. And on Nigeria's future beyond oil, Tinubu bets on blue economy as main revenue driver, according to Oyetola. While federal governments must create legal framework to protect investors and employers, says CPPE. And that's on the front page for your read this morning. And now let's take all the stories that we have for you in all the papers. Moving on to First Daily. First Daily says ACF raises alarm, cabals plots to cripple Dangote refinery. One sabotage could derail Nigeria's industrial recovery drive, says vested interest threatened by local refining success story. And that's on the front page for your read this morning. Emisi emerges winner of Big Brother's Naija season 10. It's my turn to govern, or your Power Minister Adelabu declares 2027 bid. That's on the front page for your read this morning. Lagos 2027, while I want to succeed, Sanwo-Olu says Jandor. That's on the front page for your read this morning. And I'll say up to Governors Wike, accounts for fuel subsidy savings now. Imo workers jubilate as government implements 104,000 naira new minimum wage. Remi Tinubu, we must urgently tackle global shortage of teachers. Lagos APC local government areas seek divine help after 5 women leaders die suddenly. Only God can remove Tinubu, says Tunde Bakari. That's another statement coming. What else is on the front page of the First Daily? Let's see what the picture story says. It says FCT Minister Isom Wike, River State Governor Similai Fubara, Chairman of the River State Elders Council, Chief Ferdinand Alabraba, Speaker of the State House of Assembly Martin Zamaule, and other political leaders during a unity meeting in Port Harcourt during the weekend. What else is on the front page of First Daily? Announcing Voice of Liberty. Let's see what it has in store. It says North Central under siege. North Central under siege. Bandits ravage Kwara, Kogi and Abuja, demand cash, food as ransom. A fresh wave of kidnappings and killings has engulfed Nigeria's North Central region, with armed gangs terrorizing communities across Kwara, Kogi and the Federal Capital Territory. We just hope that something is being done about it, because if the FCT especially is not safe, I don't know what part of Nigeria can actually be safe. While living like prisoners, Sokoto communities cry out. Tinubu, you are not facing Jonathan in 2027. It's Atiku you should concentrate on, says Ayodele, and that's on the front page. Kaduna governor releases 2.3 billion naira for retirees, families of deceased workers, and that's on the front page. ACF urges protection for Dangote refinery as strategic national asset, and that's on the front page for your read this morning. No place for hate in Nigeria, says Tinubu. You don't birth APC and try to kill it, says Tunde Bakari. Rejects pressure to join ADC. Islamism seeks good governance, not power, Sultan counters Kuka. And that's on the front page for your read this morning. And now let's head on to see what other papers have for us. And the Vanguard is our next stop point. Vanguard says $92 billion lithium rush leaves Nigerian investors behind. $92 billion lithium rush leaves Nigerian investors behind, while domestic investors are not yet there, according to Muda Yusuf. Foreign investors should not own mine 100%, says miners. Nasarawa leading in lithium mining friendly policies, Governors SA. No special policy on lithium, says federal government. Now, start up to governors. Account for 14 trillion naira fuel subsidy savings, and that's on page 9. EBC wins BB Niger season 10, gets 150 million naira, and that's on page 6 for your read this morning. And our household suffers cooking gas shortage worsens, rises to 25,000 naira, and that's on page 5. World Teachers Day, NLC demands living wage for teachers. Federal government honors outstanding teachers and schools. That's on page 9 and 11. Fuel scarcity bites harder in Abuja. That's on page 8. 69-year-old Nigerian bikes across 40 countries in 99 days. Harps on mental health of boy child. That's on page 8 for your read this morning. And now to music. Odumodu Black's Industry Machine album out now. That's on the front page for your read. And now let's see what other papers have in store for us. Our next stop point is on the Daily Trust. The Daily Trust says, alleged forgery. UNN never issued me degree certificate, says minister. UNN never issued me degree certificate, says minister. Now, plus remove reps minority leader tickets, and that's on page 4. Experts link 194,876 teachers deficit to poor welfare. Senator Barrow to distribute 20,000 naira each to 10,000 less privileged persons in Kano. 71 local government areas lagging behind in fiscal transparency. That's on page 11. Committee proposes 13 new emirates in Bauchi. Gunmen killed 2 wedding guests at FCT. Another political carnival at Nentawe's mother's burial. That's on page 14. 4,778 die of cholera in 5 years. How we lost them within hours, says families. Why cases are rising, says experts. I think it's about time parents want to become more cautious with their children to be sure of what they consume, what they take to school, what they take around, just to be sure that they are safe and completely out of danger when it comes to cholera, because it's pretty bad and usually has children with very high fertility rates. And now let's take some punchy headlines from the Punch newspaper this morning. It says terrorism, retired generals back calls for state of emergency. Terrorism, retired generals back calls for state of emergency. Ex-military chiefs, state of emergency will speed up anti-insurgency efforts. Only large-scale troop deployments can defeat Boko Haram, says Northern Elders. Borno dismisses call says Irabo entitled to opinion. That's on page 2 for your read this morning. Now, petrol remains 865 naira per litre amid Dangote's free delivery. FX inflows push naira to 1,465 naira per dollar. Nigeria's trade with African countries surged by 610 billion naira, and that's on page 9. Footballers men absent at governor's reunion with Wike, that's on the front page. Now, E1 Lagos Brazilian team win Lagos electric boat race. Pretty interesting, and that's on the front page. How Oshun Amotekun shot 2 siblings dead, says stepmother, and that's on page 3. Gunmen kill 4, shoots teenager near Lagos barracks. Oh my God, that's on page 4 and 5. NMA conducts court-ordered checks on Kanu, submits reports, and that's on page 7 for your read this morning. Well, that's all leave you for the front page of our national dailies. It's time now for a quick break. When we return, we'll be joined by guests for analysis of most of the top stories we read out to you. We'll be right back. Do stay with us. Welcome back, viewers. You're still on To The Press, and we're reaching you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. We've now been joined by our guests. It's going to be an interesting segment today. First, on my left, we have Ambassador clelem Aguiyi, UN Ambassador for Peace. And to my far left, we have Osaritin Osadebanwe. Am I right?
Yes,
a journalist, right, to join us to analyze most of the top stories that we read out to you. And this is also the segment where our phone lines are open for you to call in and join the conversation, especially tell us how it bites really hard. So good morning, gentlemen. Good to have you in the studio this morning.
Good morning, Nigerians.
Good morning, Nigerians. Good morning for having me in your studio again today.
Ambassador, you didn't tell me that you peeped into my wardrobe this morning to wear black, just like I did.
maybe I saw you.
It's a pleasure to have you both.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
All right. So I want us to start from political stories. And today we're going to be looking at what made this the front page of the Matrix newspaper first. It says 2027, Jonathan's bid faces opposition. There are lots of conversations around Jonathan coming up or not coming up, because people feel like Jonathan is going to be the best candidate to tackle the incumbent president, should he want to run in 2027. And the writer to that story says, only his enemies want him to contest again, says Oshomole. I'm sure a couple of persons saw Oshomole during his interview yesterday and the kind of things that he said about Jonathan running again. And he says it's a political risk that would likely end in a defeat, coming from Jando as well. And then ADC is saying Nigeria under attack, Tinubu's government must stop pretending. That's another conversation. But let's take a look at Jonathan's bid. I'll start with you, Mr. Osaritin. Let's start with Jonathan's bid. Do you think it's a good idea if he wants to run? He's not said anything specifically, but there's been meetings, backdoor meetings. People have been seeing him meeting with some political figures and all of that. Do you see him really running in 2027?
The president, former president, need to be very careful about this seeming opportunity that is being thrown at him by those who are running around to say he should run.
Okay.
When he was there, he got the support of Nigerians. Of course, there is a sense of nostalgia by many Nigerian people who want to compare his time with the present time. But we must also understand the changes that have come over this 10 years period since he has left office. While he was in office, of course, the issue of the subsidy was still running, and we know how much he suffered that period. Now, if he comes back, Nigeria will be wanting him to reverse that. Is that in the best interest of the nation's economy at the moment? That is a question we need to critically ask, because we cannot begin to call for a man to return back when the factors that determine his success at the time he was in office, and now you want him to come back when the factors have changed. Of course, 4 years will not just be sufficient at all for him to make any kind of impact. I hold a very strong opinion that it is a ploy by those who are seeking possibly to unseat the present president. They have their reasons for wanting to do that. Nigeria is really tough on everyone. And so there are those who are outspoken enough to go out and say, okay, let us get this man back. But will that not in any way diminish the civic credibility, or the credibility he already has before the national and international community? I don't think it is a good idea that he should return to vie for the presidency. But thank God so far he has not spoken, and I think he is not going to play by that ball.
Okay, let's just fold our arms and see. Ambassador, I'd like to get your opinion, because we see him having some backdoor meetings. He's also met with the Labour Party presidential candidates. We've seen him meet with some other persons in the ADC. Do you think that it will be a bad idea? And do you think he's really going to run or not?
Well, thank you for that very important question. And I like the fact that when Osarechin spoke, he said that a lot of things have changed since Jonathan left office. And what are those things that have changed? Was it a change for good or a change for bad? Most of the clamor for Jonathan coming back is based on the fact that his government was better than what we had after him. And one of the major achievements of Jonathan in governance is not even the fact that he built this or he did that, or the fact that he put human face on leadership, and he did not put his ambition ahead of the nation. Because he said, and I remember, that his ambition is not worth the life of anyone. And that is why even before they finished counting the votes, and he saw that there was no part of it winning, he called the then President Buhari and said, congratulations, you won, and considered the victory. That made him outstanding as a statesman, and he has enjoyed that credibility as a statesman, both nationally and internationally. One way you look at it, you might say, keep to that statesmanhood that you are, and keep to that fact that people appreciate you and love you. I campaigned for Jonathan in that 2015 election strongly. I played a major role, and I played a major role also when he conceded. And I also remain a loyalist of former President Jonathan. And I can tell you, this is not the first time Nigerians are asking him to come back.
But
they asked him to come back even after Buhari was leaving. And now they're asking him to come back. Now there's a space for an election, because people are looking for rescue. But I will tell you one thing. Jonathan will not run. 2027, he will not run. Whether he's having meeting with the Labour Party candidate or having meeting with ADC people, he's also part of, he's in politics. It's also part of him trying also to see how the Nigerian state can be moved forward. And nobody will remove that right from him. And I will tell you also that part of the thing that has changed is the fact that the Constitution has also been altered in the 4th and 5th Amendment of the 1999 Constitution, that actually precluded somebody who has been sworn in twice and somebody who has finished the tenure of another person and re-elected once cannot run for the election.
But that's still currently under debate.
There's no debate on that. It's a white letter law written specifically targeting Jonathan, signed by Buhari into law. You understand what I'm saying? Now, would Jonathan want to put himself into a position whereby his being elected president will become a legal quagmire? And if, because there's an incumbent president who is desperate and judiciary that is in his pocket, the judiciary that interpreted the Constitution in 2015 under Jonathan, is that the same judiciary that we have today?
True.
In 2015, you can be sure of getting justice because Jonathan was not interfering. But there's no doubt that this government interferes directly with judicial process. So it is not the same judiciary that you have now that you have now. The judiciary then was corrupt, but now it is more corrupt. Judiciary then panders to the government maybe 50%, but now it is 100%. They can predict that anything that comes from the government of the day, the judiciary, Supreme Court will stamp it as authentic. So this is our challenges that you look at there. And you look at that law, you said, okay, fine. This law was made after Jonathan has served 2 terms in office already and left office. Will the law be, is that law retroactive or is it proactive?
Yeah.
So these are the things you look at. And I know the Jonathan that I know will not want to put Nigeria through that mess. But apart from that, he has a legal right, he has a constitutional right, he has the moral, he has the right to want to aspire to any position, want to aspire. But if he consult me and ask me, I'll tell him, you look better, you look younger, you look fresher, you look more handsome.
You don't need Nigeria's pressure.
You don't look this country. You don't need their crisis. Let them go and sort themselves out. You do your best.
But honestly speaking, there's another angle to this conversation.
Okay.
What if the goal of most of these political parties calling him forth into the, into the arena to come and run is to, split the votes in the South, just as what happened in the 2023 elections. In the 2023 election, it was more like the party's PDP vote was splitted, because if we're going to bring in Obi's numbers and Atiku's numbers, you probably have a team that would have won the elections, and now that was splitted somehow. So what if this party is now calling for Jonathan's come on board, come run, is meant to actually split the vote coming from the South to ensure that the current incumbent president does not take back the seat?
Whatever the reason.
Okay.
We'll still come back to the same issue. Whatever the reason is, it is not for him to allow them to diminish his already sterling status. So if whoever they are that are calling for this are doing that for their purpose, then they have no ultimate interest of the Nigerian people. It is purely selfish, purely non-advancing to the Nigerian poor man, to the Nigerian average person. Therefore, it shouldn't even stand. But if they had been thinking of possibly using his sterling status to sour the votes of other candidates that possibly will be represented at subnational level for other parties, that would be seen to be good, so that the sense of comparison may come for Nigerians, who will begin to say, okay, look at these persons from these other parties and look at the way they are performing in their state. Like this conversation was on about Alex Oti in Abia State. Okay, this is a governor, look at what he's doing compared to other governors. I think he's better than other. If that is the purpose, to swallow the chances of other aspiring persons who become candidates in their respective party at subnational level, okay, that would have been a good thing. But again, like I said earlier, it is not for him to even come. Let them do that. Let him just stand with them, but not for him to come out and begin to run.
Is standing with them not even a risk on his own part?
Well, I will tell you something.
Okay.
APC already have their candidate from the South. That is Bola Ahmed Tinubu. PDP already zoned their candidacy to the South. And the only party that may be in contention for the next election is ADC. And maybe Peter Obi, whom is partyless as far as I'm concerned, because I cannot call him Labour, I cannot call him ADC, because he has not publicly declared his interest in ADC, and he has not also shown, due to the crisis in the Labour Party, it is clearly that he is not disposed to dealing with those crises in Labour Party. So now, the mood of the nation is that presidency goes to the South. That's the mood of the nation. No debate about it. That is what even informed the PDP decision to zone their
Atiku doesn't seem to be taking that from anybody.
I'm coming to Atiku, not taking that from anybody. If Atiku is not a stupid man, he's a very intelligent politician.
Absolutely.
So, yes, and if he sees there's no pathway to his winning, if he sees that the North is not with him, Atiku will simply yield to the South. Atiku is not averse to the South producing the president if there's a good candidate that is better than him. And Atiku already knows that the South has a candidate and that are actually very good. All Atiku is also waiting is to see if that candidate from the South, whom he thinks will make a difference, there's a ticket of either the major party or for any party, and he's running. Then Atiku will be able to say, okay, Because this party, when this political party, you see them going to the south to negotiate, going to this to negotiate, every political party is looking for a candidate that can win election for them. A candidate that has followership, a candidate they can trust also from their side, that when you go in there, you're not going to victimize them, you're not going to marginalize them, you're not going to make it maybe what Buhari did to Nigeria and what Tinubu has done to Nigeria too. We want a political situation where every Nigeria is sit on the table. You are a Yoruba, I'm Igbo, he's Edo, maybe we'll have a Fulani and Hausa. We'll make a Nigeria table, not a table where we are all Igbos in the cabinet, or we are all Fulanis in the cabinet, or maybe we are all Yorubas in the cabinet. That is not the Nigeria we want. And that is why you see all these scrambles going up and down. I think we should opt for a change in the way we look at our political. That's why we are in this deep hole, deep shit that we are in today. Let us build a nation that is all-inclusive. Let us put a table where all Nigerians can have a seat at the table. All these optics that was started by Ambosardor was about the only person that, and Jonathan was about the only person that ran maybe a government that can seemingly look all-inclusive. But every other thing that came afterwards is taking Nigeria back to pre-colonial era. And that is wrong. And that is why you see restiveness everywhere. There are parts of Nigeria where you do not need insecurity. You shouldn't have insecurity there. But you have insecurity because people there feel not included in the governance of Nigeria. They don't feel belong to Nigeria. So their own is agitation. And that is causing this very serious insecurity. There are places that this insecurity are ideologically driven by religion. So this is what we have gained from government that we are not interested in building an all-inclusive nation where everybody is proud to be a Nigerian. And I'm sorry for Nigeria, because if ordinary Benin Republic invade Nigeria would not even achieve it, because the population will sabotage you. They will fight in front of Benin Republic. They'll be happy to fight against you. And it's not good that nobody wants to die for Nigeria. That is why we cannot defeat ordinary bandits. With all our army, all our budget, you want to tell me the budget of the bandits are bigger than our own. You want to tell me the budget of Boko Haram is bigger than our own, no matter who is funding them. You want to tell me the population of Boko Haram members and population of bandits and population of insurgents in the southeast are bigger than Nigerian army? The answer is no. It is simply because people have lost faith in Nigeria and they accommodate terrorists. I told you the other time I was in the studio here that I saw people from a particular community in Zamfara, when they had a peace meeting with the bandits, taking selfie.
Yeah, I remember. So
the bandits have become celebrities. They're taking selfies with them, taking autograph from bandits.
Talking about insecurity now, there's this headline I saw on the front page of the of the Punch newspaper, that it's saying that retired generals are backing calls for state of emergency. Do you think that would be the solution to banditry in Nigeria? State of emergency?
We'd really need to look at it.
In states where terrorism is becoming the order of the day.
We really need to look at this very critically. If we're calling for a state of emergency in these states, and then you now deploy in military leadership in these areas, to what extent are they going to function that will be different for the present state they are functioning? Who is going to be given a command? At the end of the day, it is still the commander-in-chief who gets his reports and all that from the National Security Advisor, Office of the National Security Advisors. So whoever you put there as the aftermath of that state of emergency will still be needing tactical support, military support, as it were, from the center. So if it has been insufficient, as we seem to have it now, in terms of delivery today, it still will be, after the first 6 months or whatever period that person is going to occupy the office of the governor or sole administration of that particular state. So what we just need to do is to reinforce the resources. By resources, I mean personnel, intelligence, tactical, input, towards this issue. It is very, very appalling that you will say for over 10 years we are battling an insecurity issue that would have been nipped in the bud, that would have been taken care of. It calls to question the level of sincerity and honesty that is coming from the government towards handling this, but whoever the persons are. Several times we have had government officials saying, we know those who are behind this. We know who is doing this. We have that. If you know them and you have their detail, what stopped you from getting to this person and making a public show of them so that Nigerians will know that when we see them anywhere, this person may likely be involved in this and then people can be alert about that. But when you keep saying you know and then you don't even make any action, it calls to question the honesty of your claims or your capacity, as it were, to deal with it. Then secondly, you talked about these bandits coming out and then people running to them to get to do selfie. There's just one reason. Survival is critical to every human being. If they have seen very clearly that survival is their survival is in the hands of these particular persons by virtue of the fact that they operate and go scot-free. Each time they come to operate, they go scot-free. They cannot rely on somebody who is telling them, don't do this, and yet the person cannot provide safety and security for them. But they have that security in the hands of the terror. I'm not advocating that we should submit to terrorism. However, if that is where they find survival, they will just have to rely on that. It means the state must retool itself and be able to quash all of this. That is the demand. That is the minimal demand from the Nigerian people.
I think just to add to what he's saying,
yes,
I think because of the abuse of the word state of emergency in Nigeria, people tend to misconstrue when these calls are made for state of emergency. State of emergency does not mean that you do what Tinubu did in River State and topple a democratically elected government. That's an abuse of the word state of emergency. During Jonathan's time, when we were approaching an election, state of emergency were declared in some states. The democratic elected government were not toppled. It is declared in the areas that were affected by the insecurity. If you go to all these states, there are particular areas that were affected, that have been affected badly by insecurity. You declare a state of emergency there. The simple meaning is that you take extraordinary measures. We are in a democracy, so there are rules of engagement. But under state of emergency, that rules of engagement are breached, so that we can take extraordinary measures to deal with the situation. If you miss declaring war in this area, we declare the war, and then you come here in a state of war. It's not longer a state of normalcy. So that is what is general as we are calling. Declare war on these insurgents and these bandits. Flush them out. If you miss exterminating them, if you miss fumigating them, fumigate them. Let them wipe them out. That's what they are calling. That means you are going to take extraordinary measures so that the military high command will not longer wait. Because many times this military have said, we have these bandits on clear sight. We have Boko Haram on clear sight. We could eliminate them, but the other command will say, don't shoot, don't move forward, don't go ahead, and they retreat, because in the military it is obey the last order. But in that state of emergency, the commander on the front will be able to take instruction, give instruction to his troops, because there is a state of emergency and is now operating outside the laid down rules, and then be able to deal with the situation. That is what state of emergency means there. If we have health crisis in Nigeria during COVID-19, the president of Nigeria, even without declaring state of emergency, made a proclamation that almost amount to state of emergency on public health. Restrictions of movement were made. Gathering more than how many people in the church or mosque were made to enable us deal with that situation. The same thing if we have crisis in our education, which I know will come very soon because of what JAM has done and WAEC has done this year and last year. What they have done is obviously you can see that by next year you will have many millions of Nigerians who want to go to the university who cannot go. Sure. Because of just one bad policy of mismanagement of JAM. That may even force the government to declare a state of emergency in education. That does not mean you sack the governors of all the states that are affected. It means you are going to take extraordinary measures. I remember when we were going to school, there was a prolonged strike by teachers. Very prolonged, that we couldn't take our last promotional exams. What the government did was to promote, do mass promotion. Everybody was promoted to the next class. That was the state of emergency. They took extraordinary measures to ensure that the education system continued irrespective of the strike.
Ambassador and Mr. Osaritin, the part where I want us to look at now is the fact that in as much as retired General Irabo was saying that this state of emergency would actually help them calm down on the insurgents faster, we have people speaking and saying that he's only entitled to his opinion and state of emergency is not a conversation to be talked about. Do you see this as a case of one man's freedom fighter as another man's terrorist?
Like I said, I've told you that because of the way state of emergency have been abused by the president and some previous presidents. When you say state of emergency, people's mind, they are going to remove our government. They are going to remove our House of Assembly. No, that's not correct. You can declare a state of emergency in insecurity in a particular state and limit it to where this insecurity and insurgency are. The only thing it means is that the military will take extraordinary measures to make sure that these things are dealt with. And it's a temporary measure.
So in essence, are you supporting the call?
Of course. Okay. Nigeria deserves state of emergency on its security. Okay. As we speak here. They deserve it. But like I said, it does not mean that you are going to...
about understanding what the state of emergency
is. Here are talking out of ignorance.
Of course.
A military general, a military chief of defense staff is telling you, we need to take action. People are dying every day. What do you prefer? People to continue to die? We've tried this whole thing for the past 12 years and more. And look at it. When the Jonathan administration declared insecurity and localized it to particular areas so that election can hold, didn't the election hold?
Of course it
did. They
did.
were able to deal with it in 2 weeks by taking extraordinary measures. That is simply what Irabo is saying. Right. Don't argue with him and arguing out of ignorance.
All right.
Drawing from the explanation Ambassador has just given, it clearly tells you the importance of going by the rules and running by the rules, running things by the rules. Now, if that being the case, we also need to understand that the stature of the former Chief of Defense Staff is not a mean one. Here was a man, here is a man who was the former theater commander at the time. So he knows what is on ground. He still gets feelers as to the reality on ground.
They are never away from information.
Are you getting it? Mm-hmm. When he made that call, he certainly would have been making the call out of conviction that it is a solution. So going by this enlightened view by Ambassador, that declaring a state of emergency would be carrying out a surgical operation within the particular area that happens to it, that makes itself an epicenter of the whole operation, so that they can neutralize whatever the negative resources are there that are troubling the state. Mm-hmm. That is a very good measure. And so his call is one from a man you can describe as one of authority, a man of knowing. Not just because he's not from that area, but here was a man who, while he was there, was celebrated by everyone within that particular area. And even that was possible why he got that right to become the Chief of Defense Staff. And so it is an opinion that should be looked deeply into by the government.
We just hope that it gets better even as we press on. All right, so today or yesterday was Teachers' Day, and it's being celebrated even today. But there are lots of conversation. I know you mentioned crisis in our education going forward, and there are also lots of conversations around the fact that we have shortage of teachers everywhere, and we're celebrating World Teachers' Day. They say teachers are the real heroes. Without teachers, lots of us won't be here today. Do you think that we really need to declare that state of emergency in our academic sector, especially looking at some of the tutors, how to give them better welfare?
There's no doubt about the role of teachers in the life of Nigerians, and whatever you become in life, you must have gone through school and through the educational system. And teachers are primary. In fact, they are the second parent after the parents. Because most of the time, the children even spend more time
With their teachers.
with their teachers. So teachers' welfare is very, very important. And having more teachers in our classrooms are very, very critical. Because one of the dangers we have today is that we have public schools without qualified teachers. And that is why people are taking their children to private school to get proper education. It shouldn't be like that. Public schools should be the best functional schools. Government schools should be the best functional schools, well equipped. But what happened? We have liquidated it, destroyed it, and then taken our children to private schools and abroad.
And pay so much.
And that even the ones who take abroad are even more than the ones that are schooling here. And this is also becoming a heavy load on our foreign exchange.
Yeah.
A stress on foreign exchange. Because we have to pay the children's school fees in dollars. And the worst thing is that most of these politicians, they are very, very happy to show us pictures of their children graduating in London.
It's no longer, it's a thing of pride. If your children don't study abroad, it's more like you're not even involved.
The Minister of Education in Nigeria, and you're showing me that your child graduated from UK. Should be a shame that you're in the university, and that you are not in Nigeria producing graduates in Nigeria, and your own children are somewhere in America graduating from American university. And you're even tweeting it to me to see. You see, what baffles me is these politicians. Before they became whatever they became, either as senators or governors, their children are in school in Nigeria here. Elect him tomorrow as a senator. The next thing he will do is to pack his children abroad, pack his wife abroad, pack him his own medical situation abroad. He no longer trust anything about Nigeria anymore. Assuming their wives are going to the same market like my wife, assuming their children are going to the same school like my children, assuming they themselves are submitting themselves to the same hospitals I submit myself in Nigeria, I think Nigeria would have been a better place. But because they are aloof, they don't even know what I'm going through. Their children doesn't even know what I'm passing through. Their wife doesn't even know how the market looks like.
Probably don't even know the price of
things in the market. How can they make things better? How can you begin to elect that kind of person? How can that person tell you, I'll make Nigeria a promised land? Do you agree? You must be very foolish. When they come to you, ask for your vote. Please ask them, where is your wife? Where are your children?
What school do they attend?
What school do they attend? You that came to ask for my vote, which of the hospitals in our community do you go to when you are sick? Or better off, which of the hospitals in the country do you go to when you are sick? Maybe you ask them again, where do you buy your drugs? They have even their drugs imported from abroad. They don't even go to the pharmacy shop here to buy. They will bill it to them from abroad. See, this is the problem that we are having. So I appreciate teachers. I'm an educationist myself, apart from being a lawyer. I think teachers should be well paid and well motivated. And I think the government of Nigeria, states in Nigeria, should do what Anambra State government did. Because when Governor Soludo came into government in 2022 or 23, I guess, he saw that we have schools without teachers. And he declared emergency in the education system in Anambra State. In a swoop, he recruited 5,000 teachers. Apart from recruiting 5,000, he recruited another 3,000, making it 8,000. And these people are people that must have either a second class upper or first class before you can teach in Anambra State schools. And you must have done either a diploma in education or NCE in education. That means you're properly trained as an educationist. We have a lot of unemployed people who read education, who can get a job. And you're telling me that we don't have enough teachers. Employ them for God's sake, so that the schools will be well funded. Anambra State even went a step forward, not only to feed these teachers in public schools, they even feeded them in what they call private public schools, the mission schools, the schools that were handed over to the missionaries, which ordinarily have to be up to be a private run school. But Anambra State still feed those teachers into these schools, so that they can also get good teachers, because the children that are being trained in that schools are our children too.
Of course.
Even though we are giving the school back to the missionaries, the government of Anambra State is still taking care of their salaries and their pensions. of those teachers that are posted to private public school owned by missions. So these are the kind of radical steps I want the government of Nigeria to take and improve teachers' welfare. A teacher's reward, they say, is in heaven, but you can also get somewhere.
They can actually get it from here.
They begin from here to know how the test of heaven looks like.
Let's get your opinion.
Yes, let me not repeat the things you have said, but I'm focusing on the issue of the motivation of the teachers themselves, and they should be self-inspired. You've got children who are under your care. I do know that things are tough and rough, but some of us who live around places where we have our children in public school, or our friends have children in public school, know very well that the kind of experiences that these children come home to tell their parents that they've had from their teacher does not in any way suggest that the teachers are seeing themselves as molders of young persons. They seem to forget their role. So in spite of how difficult the situation is, which he has talked so much about, the teachers should themselves be responsible and accountable to themselves and to God. And that, of course, will inspire them and make them be very good role models to the children. I still talk about my teacher today, Mrs. O. Wherever she is, I'm proud of you. She was my teacher in Army Children's School in Newcastle in Kaduna. I know how much she was. She was firm, but again, very, very compassionate, very understanding. You know, she wanted to be sure that we learned and not always going after us, because for some of us who were slow learners at the time, she was patient with us while she was teaching us in primary 6. So it's important that people, that teachers pay attention to molding the children that are within their care. God help us, but the government also should do what it should do as God is helping us, and making sure that the teachers are well motivated and very much inspired to carry out their duties in molding our children, because we all are products of the teacher.
You know, I don't know, but I think that right about now, the way people see education now, or the way they see teaching as a profession, I think that is the problem. Because you hardly see children from young age saying, I want to be a teacher, but you see a child aspire to be a doctor, an engineer, a lawyer, but you never find any say, I want to be a teacher. And it may seem as though, right, this generation is now tilting towards when there is no job, you could just pick up teaching as a profession. So in my opinion, I believe that maybe government should begin to set things in measures. Just the way, before you become a medical doctor, you have to do housemanship, you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to go to school a bit more extra, which means that they should probably make the profession look good, make the remuneration even way better, up to the standard of being a doctor, because a teacher saves lives, right? Just the way doctors save lives. So it's not about blood and water, it's about molding somebody into someone better, because children see them as heroes. Children even listen to them more than they listen to their parents. Yes. And especially in the formative years, from 0 to 6, they listen to their teachers more. So if you make this profession as better as the medical profession, don't you think we'll be at the right
Well, you don't even make it look attractive like an astronaut, but you have to be able to make it look attractive because we have grown with this mentality that teachers are poor, that the worst are in heaven. And let me ask you, Olamide, when you're trying to
ambassador, it's also your rounding up for teachers.
When you're looking for a husband, are you looking for the one that will use ruler to measure yam, and you use coal to measure oil before it gives to you, because you can't afford it? I mean, that's the mentality we grow up knowing teachers. So nobody aspires to. And the government did the wrong thing again. The system did the wrong thing by employing people who did not study education. Teaching is professional, it's occupational. You are going to get people who have BSc in economics to come and teach. He's not a teacher. But somebody who has BSED in education, he's not being employed to be a teacher.
True.
So even if you want to be a teacher after doing your BSc, and I'm happy that some universities are making it compulsory, that before you can even be employed as a lecturer, you have to go and do a CE or diploma in education, so you can learn how to be a teacher. When you talk about housemanship and internship for lawyers, teachers go to what we call teaching practice. When as part of the education, they do teaching practice. So the structures are already there. The problem is that the government refused to do the right thing, and over time our system collapsed in the education system. And then only teachers become like a norm. I mean, you pay everybody, don't pay teachers. It is a system, the government, the politicians, that destroyed our education.
All right, Ambassador, you're rounding up thoughts to our teachers today. You're rounding up thoughts to our teachers today.
Yeah, I will encourage the teachers to keep doing the positive things they are doing. We that are out there will keep fighting for them. We need teachers, and we need teachers to get their reward here on earth, so that they will have a taste of how heaven will be. Because somebody who suffer in this, on this earth will also suffer in heaven. The government should pay them their money and make sure that their teaching and their learning environment is conducive. We don't need classrooms that are leaking with water. We don't need teachers headmaster's office that is looking like a scrap areas. I know what I'm saying.
Definitely.
Yeah, the way you make that doctor's environment to be, the way you make your senator's office to be, make teacher's office to be like that.
Definitely. Thank you, Ambassador. Mr. Saracen, your last words to teachers today.
What is lacking is prestige. So we are demanding. We are not asking, we are demanding that the government should ensure that there is some sense of prestige for the teachers, so that when the young ones see them as they handle them, they can also get inspired, wanting to be teachers. We know very well that we are not where we are today without the contribution of the different persons who were teachers in our different stages of education. So that is critical and that is important. Government should do what it should do in terms of ensuring that they get the best for the teachers, financially, funding of the educational system.
Absolutely, I can agree more. I think it's about time when our teachers see things also differently and create a better picture of what the teaching profession looks like. Because of course, you're the only ones who can do better from the inside. Let us see your profession as admirable, because sometimes I see most children see their teachers and like, I don't want to dress like my teacher, I don't want to look like my teacher. So it's very important to also appear good with whatever profession that you're handling. Happy Teachers Day, and thank you so much for being a part of the show. Thank you so much, Ambassador, for being a part of the show today, and thank you so much, Mr. Saracen. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
It's been such an insightful session. Thank you so much, viewers. I'll see you again tomorrow. I am Olamide Al Hassan, and that's bye for now.